and see the fucked up ways people sit at a desk during the day. Like, so how do you sit at a desk? Because we're sitting here just now, and your body's a little bit twisted. Skewed, so sitting there for a long time, that you're probably going to get sore. Simon, you're kind of twisted the other way, but not as much. And I'm kind of fairly straight on. But whenever I talk to you, Greg, I'm twisting.
The goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
You're listening to Perspective, a podcast for wedding craves, where we sit down, often with a special guest, and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry. On today's episode 24, we're shifting gears and doing something a little bit different. On the podcast today, we have Ross Stewart, who does not work in the wedding industry, but is one of the best, if not the best, personal trainer in Scotland. And perhaps, let's go wild here, best in the UK. During busy wedding seasons, it's all too easy to get carried away shooting back-to-back weddings and not really looking after yourself. It then becomes apparent that you've put yourself under too much strain, and that only ends up in compromised work and a compromised well-being. In our conversation with Ross, we're going to be discussing how you can remain injury-free, as well as how to become more productive and maintain a happier, healthier lifestyle. This is actually kind of a little bit of a special episode because we have a giveaway at the end of the show.
Our first ever giveaway.
A first ever giveaway. Should we tell them what it is, or should we just have them keep listening?
Let them keep listening.
Oh,
listen to the end, find out how to enter.
You tease.
Maybe we should say what it is. Because it's a fairly big prize. Almost £200.
You're changing your mind now, aren't you?
Yeah, let's tell them what it is.
You want to tell them what it is?
Yeah. So keep listening to the end, particularly if you're based in Glasgow. We've got a £200 voucher to try out Ross's gym.
That's right, which, as you'll soon discover, is my gym. Come train with me.
That's not a big incentive for people.
Oh, that's right. They're not going to want to do that, are they?
But listen to the end to find out how to enter, and we'll choose the winner next week.
That's right. As always, this episode is sponsored by With Jack, but I'm going to get onto that a little bit later in the show. However, in the meantime, Greg, what are we drinking?
We are drinking some North Star coffee. It's their Peru blend, and I'll try and pronounce it. I'm going to say Nemas Flores.
Yes. I hope for all the listeners out there, they realise that I get Greg to say the coffee names because I have no idea what any of them really say.
And we're drinking some long blacks, brewed up some espresso.
That's right, through the machine. And we're here with Ross today. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Even better after a couple of sips of that lovely Peruvian blend.
It is rather tasty, I have to say. It's the first time we've had it.
Yeah.
Or did you sneak some?
We got it from our friends at Maze Cafe in Glasgow. So we've had it there.
That's
the first time we've pulled it on the espresso here.
And I don't think we butchered it. So
yeah,
well done, Greg.
Tasting good.
Indeed. Well, for those of you who don't know, in fact, I'll just pass you over to Ross. Ross, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I could do. It's always an awkward thing to try and talk about yourself, and although I don't find it very difficult, to be honest. So I'm Ross Stewart. I own a gym in Glasgow, a personal training facility called Improve Glasgow. We've been operational now for around about 4 years and have just rather delightfully moved into what we call Improve Glasgow 2.0, which is essentially a facility that's over twice the size of our old facility and about 100 times as nice.
It definitely is 100 times as nice.
Yeah, we went from a kind of dingy industrial unit and we're now in a kind of swish and what I would describe as swish and swanky new facility. So yeah, the goal for us is to improve the health of the people in Glasgow, to try and make people fitter, stronger, more confident and a little bit leaner as well. If we can do that whilst making people laugh and keeping smiles on their faces and keeping them highly caffeinated, which we do, then I'll consider myself a success.
Yeah, that's true with the caffeine. What's your coffee setup? I mean, obviously I know because I'm a member of your gym, but for all those listening, what is your coffee setup?
Our coffee setup, we get our beans from the Good Coffee Cartel, which is a roastery in the south side in Kinning Park, and they made me buy, I would say they recommended I buy, but they made me buy, I think it's a Wilfa. It's a Norwegian brand or something.
Or something.
I don't know. It's Wilfa Plus maybe. It's the machine, and it's a filter coffee machine. And as we were talking about just before we came on air, the beauty of it is it's so consistent. It doesn't matter who's making it. It's very, very simple.
Yeah.
It's idiot proof, and it means that no matter when I go into the gym, no matter who's made the coffee, it's good. If sometimes you make cafetiere, you make different types of coffee, there's a certain skill level attached to it, whereas the person who's more experienced making the coffee makes the best coffee. That person was typically me, so if I wasn't there to make the coffee, it wouldn't be as good as I want it to be. Whereas now it's consistent the whole time. So that is our coffee setup.
Yes. I appreciate the fact that it's kind of got a hot plate underneath, so it remains hot, whereas your roll system you made it, and then
if you come in an hour later, you're drinking
cold coffee, which I have done,
which is
on
cool,
many
but
times.
not when it's cold outside.
Yeah.
But no, it does. It keeps it warm, and it's good. The only issue I've got with it is now we're going through double the amount, because I guess because we've got a nicer gym, we've got more of a kind of communal social area type thing, which we don't yet have furniture for, thanks to delivery delays. But people are spending more time in the gym, people are drinking more coffee, which means that if you're not first, you're last, and if you're last, you've got an empty pot there sitting looking at you. You've got to brew up another storm.
Normally we talk about sort of what we've been doing at the weekend. With wedding suppliers, that's a lot of filming, photography. But is your weekends social? Are you in at the gym?
I'm glad you asked me this weekend after last weekend. Last weekend was a mad one, but this weekend was a fairly normal weekend. So yeah, I was probably in the gym on Friday night until maybe about 6 o'clock. After that, it was a couple of beers on the couch with dinner. Saturday morning, we open from 8 till 12, and I'm typically there and thereabouts, just kind of shaking hands and kissing babies, as I like to refer to it, despite the fact we don't really have any babies in the gym, but I'm there just kind of making sure everything's all right and firing some banter around. And then went for dinner at one of my friends' houses with my good lady and his wife. We had a curry, a few beers, and then yesterday I was at my sister's with some family stuff, and then we had them round for a Sunday roast. So that was a kind of perfect weekend for me. I think
Sounds good.
I trained on Friday. I trained on Saturday with Rachel and her man, and Callum trained as well. And then yesterday I trained as well with Phil, actually. Me and Phil did a wee workout in the gym.
Phil.
Phil's a great guy. So that was a kind of perfect weekend for me. A little bit of work in the gym, some training, like some social beers that didn't get out of hand, and lots of family time. That's a weekend for me, well spent.
I remember when I first met you that you weren't really into your beers, or you didn't really liked hanging out with mates and drinking. Is that a ticket that's changed?
I think like 4 years of gym ownership has definitely converted me into a borderline functional alcoholic. I think that I've always enjoyed, particularly over the past 2 or 3 years, I've started to enjoy like better coffee, which I think the correlation between it's an easy kind of, if you're into coffee, you're kind of into craft beer. I think they're both very similar. Same
they seem to go hand in hand
as well, and you can get into those things. So I think like going from just smashing bottles of Corona mindlessly to then having a little bit more thought about the beers you're drinking, and then just as we know, as stress piles up, it's a couple of beers takes the edge off the stress. So for me, it's been going from maybe 16 to 26, where I didn't really drink at all, maybe binge every 3 to 6 months, to now between maybe 28 and nearly 31 that I am now. I've probably drank more in the last 3 years than I have done in my whole life prior to that, but generally speaking, it's with moderation, and it's balanced
and
out.
It's good quality stuff.
Yeah, it's decent stuff, and it's balanced out with lots of training and lots of just eating like a sensible human. Yeah,
it's funny because on last week's episode we were speaking to a photographer who'd moved from LA to Italy, and he too, I think we all agreed that being able to have a conversation and really dig deep into like the things that you taste and drink and consume. I like the culture behind that sort of thing, so whether it be coffee, the way it's made, the way it's, for beer, or the way it's brewed, like all those processes, I find it super interesting.
I do too, but I think it's also super dangerous. Like Phil yesterday, so Phil, another member of the gym who's been there for a long time, as Simon has, he's helping to open a bar in Edinburgh. So we were talking about the beers he was going to have on draft, and the beers he was going to get in, and how it was all going to be from local breweries like next door to the bar and stuff like that. And what I said was essentially the same as you. Like, the thing I like about it is going and I'll try that one, then I'll try that one. But beer and coffee are both dangerous things to just try one. Because like whenever I go, Phil used to run a pub called Redmond's in East End, and Nicola and I would go often. But we'd start off, I'd start off on a couple of pale ales, move to an IPA, then moved to a stout or a porter, then I'd moved to whiskey, then I'd moved to cocktails. And like before I know it, I'm having a great time, but I wake up the next day hating myself. And coffee's the same, you have one and you think, that was great, I'll have another one, and that wasn't quite as good, but it was still good, I'll have another one, and then you're just wired for the rest of the day, can't sleep. So it's just, I need to find something that I can do and consume and enjoy consuming that doesn't have such a detrimental effect on everything else.
I kind of want to have a brief overview, essentially, of your journey so far, right? Because obviously you've told us where you are. How did that all begin?
When I've always been into football, so I was kind of brought up as a typical boy from Glasgow. Dad threw me into football as soon as I could walk. I think I went to my first Rangers game when I was 18 months old, and I was playing football when I was 3. Like, as soon as I could walk, I was playing football. So that kind of continued, and I was always okay at football, decent enough. Played for my school and stuff like that, local boys club. Once I got to about 12, 13, 14 maybe, I think that's when people started hitting puberty, and guys' bodies started growing, people started developing muscles round about me. I was kind of looking around thinking, man, I'm a bit of a late bloomer here. Like, I'm late to this party. I'm still like kind of skinny fat. Like, that wasn't really a term back then. I know it is now, but back then, I was like chubby cheeks, a little bit soft around the middle, quite skinny. But I remember people started kind of referring to me as like a wee bit chubby. And it was all good-hearted. It was certainly nowhere near bullying, but it was a bit of banter, like, a bit chubby there. I thought, I don't really like that. I'm not really into this. And then I started seeing Men's Health cover models, started seeing magazines, and just becoming more and more aware of people being in shape, which, again, like, wasn't really a thing. You guys are similar ages to me. It wasn't really a thing when we were growing up, like guys being in shape. It was like, the focus was very much on females to be in shape, and that was not necessarily a responsibility, but it was like females felt that pressure of being in shape, whereas guys, it was like we just played football or watched football, drank beers, and if we were fat, nobody cared. Like, guys didn't have to be in shape. But that's obviously turned over the past 15 years, and certainly back then I started to notice, and I thought, and I just started to see, like, on TV, like the guys who were, getting the girls, the kind of superheroes that were picking up all the chicks, which was obviously a massive driver for me when I was 15, were all in shape. And I thought, well, I can't really control how tall I am. I can't really control how smart or how fast I am. These things are all kind of, to a large extent, genetic at that point in time, but I can control what shape I'm in. So for me, like, I think I was 14, I made my mum take me down to the local authority council gym and sign me up on her card, and from there I just started training. Did my induction and started just training, like, kind of whatever the gym instructor who took that told me to do. I was just doing all the time, and then by kind of like 15, 16, I was in pretty good shape. So after about a year, I was like, had kind of abs and stuff, and I was the guy that was taking protein shakes into school when nobody knew, like, what the hell is that? Nowadays that's fairly common, but 15 years ago, people were like, what have you got there? Eating tuna out of cans and just doing all that, like, daft stuff that we would laugh at and think is daft now because we're further on and we're not necessarily or I'm not necessarily that into fitness anymore, at that kind of level of intensity. And then from there I was continuing to play football. I was in shape, I was going to the gym. Football became not kind of enough for me, and I started working with a guy who's a Thai boxer, and I just found his confidence infectious. And I thought, like, what is it you do? Like, the way he walked, the way he talked, the way he carried himself. Just like, what is it you do? Like, because whatever you do, I want to do. He said, well, and obviously the conversation didn't quite go like that. It's kind of psycho. But as we got to know each other, he's like, I'm a Thai boxer, I fight professionally. And I was like, he said, do you want to come to a class with me? So I went and started doing Thai boxing, got my ass handed to me time and time again for years and years and years. And then transitioned over into mixed martial arts. But in that experience doing Thai boxing, I remember doing it because I started it because the football season finished. I remember doing it over the summer, and I went back to do pre-season training with my football team. And pre-season is a notoriously difficult period of training for any footballer. Nobody looks forward to it, but I was really looking forward to it. And I went and I was just running rings around all my teammates, and my coaches were like, what the fuck have you been doing? Sorry if I can't swear, but like,
no, you're fine.
What have you been doing over the summer? And they were almost like taking the piss. Like, yeah, go run up there and come back. Boof. Like, you back up, go and do it again. I was just like, I just loved fitness, and I guess it's that kind of like positive spiral. Like, the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it, the more positive feedback I got from it, and therefore I just loved it more and more. So getting into martial arts, was doing that, worked with athletes at university. When I finally went to university to study sport, decided to work with athletes, then took a kind of detour and decided to work with general population, as we call it in the industry, just normal people, because athletes typically are in the kind of top percentile, and to help an athlete, like, you know, the way to look at it is like, to help an athlete like take a 100-meter sprinter take 0.1 second off their time, you've got to spend 4 years training to take 0.1 of a second off their 100-meter time. Whereas like, you can train somebody who's just on the couch, take 5 stone off them in 6 months if they're super dedicated, and change their whole life. Like, that seems more valuable to me. That's what I want to do. So for me, like, that kind of personal relationship with fitness then turned into, when I was at uni, like a potential career path, and then qualified as a personal trainer when I left uni. And then from there, it's just been that's what I've done for the past 8-9 years, is personal training.
Yeah. And did you, I mean, was the goal of having a gym, like, in the back of your mind? Like, when did that start about?
My perception of myself is that I now come across far smarter than I should. And I come across far smarter than the person that I was when I was growing up. When I was growing up, all I wanted to do was play football and chase girls when I was at school. I was always interested in see how much trouble I could get into and just have a laugh with the boys, just typical kind of lad. When I went to uni, I was like, let's scrape through this. Let's just do the bare minimum to get through it, and train all the time. So I was training 2-3 times a day. I was in awesome shape. Like, I kind of missed the whole student, like, drinking and like being a kind of slob, like stereotypical student. I was just like, I treated myself like an athlete who had no talent to actually be an athlete. I was like, I'm going to train all the time because I love this. So I scraped through it, and then once I became a personal trainer, because I think I graduated in 2010. That was after the big kind of global economic bust, so nobody was really giving anybody jobs doing anything. Yeah, and I just became aware that if I wanted to make money and have a job that I wanted to do, I was going to have to do it for myself. Nobody was going to give me that opportunity. So I started off self-employed, and it was being self-employed that taught me that, you know, I had to develop every aspect of myself, and I had to become harder working. Like, I always had a work ethic, but I had to apply myself to the areas that I didn't like. Whereas in school, you know, it's like maths, I don't like that, I'm not doing it. No, I'm not going to class. No, I'm not sitting that exam. Yeah. No, I'm not going to do my homework. Whereas like once I became self-employed, like, if I don't do that, like, that's going to have a massive ramification on my development and my success over the years. Whereas if I just apply myself to becoming better all round and learning through every aspect, then I could potentially have a good run at this. So to get back to your question of, like, was the gym the aim? It was always like a pipe dream. It was always something that I thought could maybe happen, but I never thought I'd be good enough to make it to a level where it would be an opportunity. I got to about 18 months into my career, and I was working part-time in a shoe store at the time, and it got to a tipping point where it was like, either commit to personal training or and you know, buy a house, get a mortgage and stuff like that, and just settle down. But I always wanted to live in a different country. So instead of doing that, I just took the money I'd saved for a mortgage, or I'd started saving for a mortgage, and pissed off to Australia for a year. So I went over there with the intention of just like bumming about and enjoying myself and quote unquote finding myself. Ended up working in a gym over there because it's all I know, it's all I'm interested in. I was trying to get bar jobs and office jobs and stuff, and they're just like, what experience have you got? I'm like, I can squat.
I can lift a keg.
I'm pretty good at fighting. And they're like, no. So I got a job in a gym. Thankfully, there was a gym owner in Australia mad enough to hire me. He was a professional boxer, a professional MMA fighter, and also played rugby professionally. So we, as much as I hate rugby, we had a lot in common from a combat sport perspective. So we hit it off and started working together. And then when I was over there, that was when I knew I could make it as a personal trainer, because I knew I had for me, making it as a personal trainer, just being able to work every hour God sends, and being able to work whenever your clients want you to work 7 days a week. If you can do that, you can probably make it as a personal trainer, as long as you show up late, don't stink, are pleasant to people and stuff, like just basic things that so many people get so wrong. But when I was over in Australia and I was working in that gym, I thought, like, man, I think I could do this better. And it was nothing against the guy that owned the gym. I had a great time working there, but I just thought that, like, I could do this in Glasgow and make it better than what it is here. Because in Australia, there's gyms on every street corner. There's yoga studios in every street corner. At the time, I was probably aware of 1 or 2 independent gyms in Glasgow. The rest of them were all fitness firsts and like local authority leisure centres. It's changed now. I think there's about 4 or 5 gyms in this very building.
There is about.
Just about. Like, genuinely, I think I could name 4 or 5. I was saying that to my brother-in-law before I come up here. So there's gyms everywhere now, but back 4 years ago, or 6 years ago when I got back from Australia, I think it was 6 years ago, there was one or two independent gyms, and I just thought I could do it better than them. So yeah, I was just aware that when I came back, there was only a couple, and I thought, give me a couple of years to build up a business, and I could probably have a go at this. So I got back in, started training people again on a one-to-one basis, launched a boot camp, which I ran in Clarkston, and I think at the time I had a friend who was a personal trainer, and he wanted to basically follow me. He said, I want to go to Australia and have a great year, but I'm really scared of what happens when I come back. I said, well, that'll be a year, so give me a year to build this, and when you come back, I'll give you a job. So we did that. He came back, gave him a job. Then 6 months later, I hired Ali, who's still with me today. And then I think around about a year or 4 or 5 months after that, maybe, I can't remember, but we opened our first gym. And at the time, no idea what I was doing. I mean, you were there fairly early on. I had no kind of. I mean, our kind of whole goal with the gym is to make people feel welcome, take away the intimidation and the kind of the wanky part of fitness, and make people feel like no matter how fit or unfit somebody is, to make them feel at home in our gym, and just to try and be like the best, like the highlight of their day. So that was always our goal, and I think we've always done that fairly well. But in the early days, I had no idea how to run a business. My idea of running a business was looking at my bank balance and seeing if there was money in it or not. And then, like, if there was, cool. If there wasn't, like, shit, I need to go and find some people to bring into the gym. Yeah. So it's been a massive learning curve over the past 4 years to get to where we are now.
Yeah. And obviously the bank balance is looking a bit healthier. Well, maybe not. Maybe not.
It was before we put it all into this new gym. So people keep saying that, like, congratulations on your success. And like anybody can spend money. Spending money is not to congratulate on. Congratulate me in a year once we've recouped it. Like.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how much restraint you must have had to try and have when you were buying all the gear for the new gym. Because like when we're like, all right, we're going to re-buy some new kit, it's like, oh, yes, this is exciting. What camera are we going to get? And I can imagine you'd be like, okay, I've got to kit out a whole gym.
Yeah.
That was something I was super conscious of before we made the move. So what I did, and I think it was an absolute master stroke, even if I do say so myself, was take it off my hands. So I got it away from me. So what I did very early on was I recognised the fact that like with a 3,000, just over 3,000 square foot facility, there was no way that I could kit that out myself, like using my own ideas, because I'm not creative. Like, you're super creative, Simon. You've got like colours all over your hands. At the moment, I'm staring at your fingernails, which are all different colours as well. I know you said it was your kids, but I don't believe you.
That's my kids. That's my kids. I had a spat with my kids.
But you're super creative. You get gig. You're probably the same. I'm not very creative. I can be creative like in a workout sense, but I'm not a very creative person. I'm kind of like almost like on the spectrum with like constraints, and like my brain just works in like in little boxes. I find it hard to break out. So something I did early on was hire an interior designer, and I said, look, I want you to basically take this and do what you want to do with it. And we had several meetings about what I wanted the gym to be, because for context, if anybody's not kind of sure of what our gym is or who I am or whatever, I wanted to make a massive statement to the Scottish fitness community and say, we need to step up. Like, we are failing people. We're opening shithole facilities. We're running them very badly, and we're delivering a bad service. And I think that's across the whole industry in Scotland. There's obviously a couple of personal trainers or a lot of personal trainers who are doing very good jobs, and there's probably a couple of gym owners who are doing very good jobs. But I think in the main, we're making an absolute bollocks of helping people get fitter, stronger, healthier. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that one of the main issues with that is people are too scared to spend money. They're too scared to spend money because they don't have a solid enough business plan. They don't have enough confidence in themselves, and they don't have the balls to just say, "Fuck it, I'm in. Like, I'm in for a penny, in for a pound. I'm going for this." And I wanted to be the first to, or I'm not saying I was the first. There's probably a couple of others who have done some of the things, but I wanted to really, really make a statement. And part of that statement was not letting myself skimp. So by bringing in an interior designer and saying, look, like, she said, what's your budget? I said, I don't want to talk about a budget. I want you to go and just create me the best gym possible. And then if I think we're getting out of hand, then I'll pull you back. And she said, cool. And then she just went for it, and she sent me through invoices, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, do I need to spend that on toilets? And lights, what? But ultimately, like, I had to just put my trust in her. Like, I hired her for a reason, I paid her for a reason, and I think she Her name's Cassie Andrews from Cave Design, to get a little plug in for her. I think that she's probably the reason that our gym looks so well. She's definitely the reason the gym looks so good. And I think it's the best money we've spent was doing that, because it took that thought process away from me, where like, well, there's a camera at £4,000 and there's a camera at 500 quid. Well, I tell you what, I'll spend 700 quid. You know, but the £4,000 one might give you like you know, movies that are films that are 10 times better, but you just get that fear of spending your own money when you're making that buying decision. So I just tried to let her make all the buying decisions, and towards the end, don't get me wrong, I was like, right, let's try and pull back a wee bit here, there, and about at the start I was just like, let's go for it. And kit wise, like, our gym isn't treadmill based. We had a lot of kit already, so the flooring was expensive, but the kit was just kind of cool. But yeah, that was a big thing for me, just to say, look, you go and do it. And once we run out of money, I'll, which we definitely did do, I'll start pulling you back.
Yeah. So, like you said, there's alone 5 or 6 gyms in this building. How do you now, you know, survive as a gym owner?
Yeah, I mean, like, so I think, like, take it away from just gyms, I think as a business in general, like, how many, like, there's tons of you guys as well, and the goal isn't to survive, the goal is to thrive. Like, surviving, I think if your goal is just to survive, then you're going to make the cheap choices. If you make the cheap choices, you're going to attract people who recognise the fact that you've made those cheap choices. I think there's up to a certain point you can deliver an amazing service without really investing in yourselves as people and in your equipment, which I know you guys have done. That we're sitting in a cool studio. There's Macs everywhere. There's a cool coffee machine. We're looking at, I'm talking into a decent level mic. So I know you guys know that, but I just think that, like, your customers or your prospective customers see if you're skimping, and if you're skimping, they're kind of the level of, like, emotional equity that you build up with them, like, won't get as high. Yeah. And if you get new people coming in, particularly if you're a gym, if you get new people walking into your gym, for the past 18 months, I've been embarrassed bringing new people into our gym. And I've always been saying that we're going to be moving soon. And it's dragged on and on and on and on, as you know, through no fault of my own. But ultimately, I get the blame for it. Like, you told me I would be moving into a bigger gym. I've been here for 8 months. Where is this new gym? Yeah. So I think, like, for me, the goal isn't to survive. The goal is to dominate. I want to take over. I want to be synonymous with personal training and with fitness in Scotland. Whether that's my name, whether it's Improve Glasgow, like, it's one and the same. It leads to the same place. I want my team to get recognition for being the best in Scotland as well. I want them to get recognition in their own right. So for me, it's just about being the best. And I'm not trying to be arrogant and say that we are better than everyone else and we are the best. But every day we strive to be better than we were. We constantly pick holes. Much to the annoyance of my team, I know, because every day I'm like, could you have done that better? What do you think we can do better? Like, there's fluff in that floor. Like, there's sinks in that dish. There's sinks in that dish. There's dishes in that sink.
Things are getting crazy over there.
But there's constantly, I'm just constantly, like, I'm a perfectionist. I'm constantly looking for ways to develop and to grow. Mm-hmm. And whenever I go into other people's gyms, and I go into other people's gyms often, I just don't see that same desire from the majority. There's certainly that desire in some, and it'll be the same in your industry. You'll see the guys who really want to push and really want to make a difference and to make an impact, and you see the other ones that are happy just making a living and ticking over and surviving. So for me, it's to thrive, and that comes down to just every day trying to pick out areas where we can improve and try to pick out areas to be better and just make sure that we're performing every day.
Like, obviously we spent a lot of time, like, refining our films, but, like, the business end of things, like, especially Greg, you did a lot of making sure that when someone contacts you, they're now in a funnel, and, there's certain emails to be sent, and, there's been comments said to us many times how fast we get back to people, how professional we are, that's really important for kind of any business.
It's absolutely massive. And see with that, like, I don't look at other gyms as our competitors. I look at one-to-one personal trainers as our competitors. So if you're a personal trainer and you're charging somebody 40, 50 quid an hour for training, like, I look at you as my competitor and I want to kill you. Like, not physically, but, like, I want to take all your clients off you, because £40 an hour once a week across the month is something like 175 quid a month. So whenever I speak to people, like, our kind of target market is people who are training one-to-one with a trainer, because they're typically going to be training in a busy commercial gym at peak times. So it's going to be overcrowded. They're going to have real restricted access to equipment. They're going to be training with somebody who, if that person gets sick, they cancel their session. If the person's on holiday, they cancel their sessions. They're going to have to pay a gym membership on top of what they pay the one-to-one personal trainer.
Yeah.
And for me, like that's who our competition are. So whenever I'm speaking to people who want to join our gym, like not only will we save you money and let you train with us like 3-4 times more per week at a reduced rate than what you would pay once a week with a one-to-one personal trainer, but you'll have, like, our systems are just better. We've got 6 coaches in our gym at the moment, of which at peak times 4 will be coaching. There'll always be a spare person to welcome people in, make coffee, check in with people who aren't attending, get in contact with people, sit down, have nutrition chats with people if they want them, goal reviews. We do all that stuff, and I've been a busy one-to-one personal trainer. There's not enough hours in the day. You can't do it. It's just like, how you doing, Simon? Let's get through this hour. Right, see you later. See you next week, mate. Right, next person, Greg, in we go. Let's get in. And you're just constantly, it's like a washing machine. You're just constantly spinning. Whereas like our systems and our process are so much better. An inquiry comes in and we're on them straight away. And then like, when you're available for a call, we'll call you. We'll open back up at 4. Do you want us to call you straight after that? Yeah, no problem. Great, we'll get you in. Then we had a girl who inquired yesterday morning, booked a call yesterday for this morning. She's on the phone this morning and she's in at 7 o'clock tonight for an introductory session. Like,
awesome.
If you're a busy personal trainer, you can't do that because your diary's full. Yeah. So for me, like that's one of the things that I think this differentiates any business. It's just the level at which you can get back to people, your systems behind the scene. And you need to get to a certain level before you have the kind of wherewithal to think, man, we've got nothing behind the scenes. We're all front end. Yeah.
You start off writing almost the same email over and over and over again, then you're like, I need a template. And then it just escalates from there. And
and
you need to work on the people in our industry don't like the word client. You need to work on the couple's journey with you and their experience of working with your company.
100%, but ultimately, like people are like, if they pay you money, they're a client, they're a customer, they're a consumer. Like that's just like they're all synonyms, aren't they? But yeah, I think like the client journey for any business is just absolutely massive, and I think that's where most people get it wrong. I think most people are too arrogant and think they're amazing and think, well, that person's inquired, I'll send them a price list, they'll pick one, they'll come in. But then you guys are doing what you guys are doing, and I know that your service is shit up because we've used you before. So when somebody inquires to somebody and gets like fairly average service, and then they inquire to you and they get amazing service, they don't care how much more expensive you are because you've made them feel special, you've made them feel important, you've made them feel that you give a shit, and therefore they're more than happy to spend more money with you. That's kind of how I look at it, despite the fact I said that we save people money compared to one-to-one person training.
I mean, your service isn't cheap, I think, compared to the majority of gyms, but
yeah, because ironically, we're probably the most expensive gym in Glasgow, despite the fact that we are. I'm not aware of any gyms that are more expensive than us in Glasgow. However, the way that as I say, I don't compare ourselves to other gyms because you can pay £20 a month to go to a gym, you can pay £5 a month to go to a gym, but we compare ourselves to other personal trainers. So we're a personal training facility. We train people in small groups. So as much as we are a gym, like don't compare our prices to other gyms. Compare our prices to a personal trainer. And personal trainers will charge between 175 and 500 odd quid a month, depending on whether you want to train once, twice, 3 times a week. So that's always the way that we frame it. But you are right, we are the most expensive gym in Glasgow. So that's I think, I hope. If we're not, I'll put our prices up and make sure that we are.
You just shot yourself in the foot there, Simon.
Nah, we don't touch our existing members. Sounds cool.
Yes. So obviously you're not a wedding supplier. I think
quite far from it.
Quite far from it. You are a business owner.
We do help brides get ready for weddings. We do help grooms. So we kind of are, in some sort of sense. And we're involved.
True, yeah.
As you've touched on earlier, the correlations between just being a business owner alone, there's so many similarities there.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. But the main reason we brought you in, obviously, because it's getting to that time of year where we call it the wedding season, right? It's pretty much just hustle all the time. You're shooting back-to-back weddings and stuff like that. But what we want to do is just make sure that people are keeping well to avoid those kind of pressures that can build, because if you suddenly get ill, your backlog starts to build up. If you get ill or injured, you can't shoot a wedding or 2 weddings if it's back to back, so that's kind of our goal for this episode, right? People in the wedding industry kind of have, I think, I was going to say a strange job. I think it's probably the majority of jobs these days where you're sitting down for long periods of time. whether it's driving to work and then sitting at a computer, maybe a break or two, but then you're sitting back down at the computer to get back in your car to drive home, probably to have dinner sitting down, to spend your night chilling in front of Netflix, sitting down. And then for wedding people, you've got the kind of the other end where during the weekend, it's so intense. It's like you're up early, you're shooting, probably not eating very well, not keeping hydrated, carrying a lot of equipment. So from your experience, what kind of physical ailments tend to be a result of that sort of work schedule?
Yeah, I think that the sitting down, if we deal with the sitting down stuff first, I think that's probably the most common thing that we see. 99% of the people that we train spend 95% of the day on their arse. As you touched upon, from getting up, sitting down for your breakfast, to sitting in a car, train, bus, sitting down at work, going home, sitting on the couch. So I think that lends itself to tight hips, tight hamstrings, and sore backs. So we find a lot of back pain, as you well know.
I do have a back problem, yes.
But that's everybody with a back problem thinks they're the only person in the gym with a back problem. But the truth is that most people in the gym, because of the fact they sit down all day, have some sort of limitation with their lower back. Where if they get to a certain working weight, they'll feel it in their back. If there's certain movements they just don't like, and this is that's you when you're training, but it's also a hell of a lot of people when they're training. So I think that the sore back is a thing. I think what we also see is shoulder impingement. So we see tight shoulders, we see shoulder pain, we see lack of range of motion in the shoulder. So I've got my hand out in front of me at the moment to show the guys. If you try to take the hand above the head, that you'll find most people can only get to kind of there, which is you should be able to get your bicep and the gun of your arm in line with your ear. For me, that's quite tight and that's quite sore because I've spent a lot of time again, sitting, yeah. So you can see that your elbow's bent there, so try and straighten up the elbow, and then that brings it forward. That's cool. The guy's going for it as well. He's a bit tight. So you can see that, and you should be able to get it like behind your head, but for me, that's quite tight because I spend a lot of time sitting at a desk now as well. A lot of time doing combat sports when I was younger as well. So we see typically back and shoulder pain. On the flip side, when you've got people standing up, again, it's the back because you're standing, you're holding everything on one side to shoot. So your spine's kind of curved, your body's shaped in a different way than what's comfortable. So you'll find that one side gets overloaded and that can just lead to pain. So typically those are the things that we see most often with people.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, obviously when I got a back injury, the last thing I wanted to do was go to the gym.
Yep.
I had a unhealthy relationship with the way I viewed exercise and gym and all that kind of stuff, but more so just the fact that I was kind of embarrassed. I was embarrassed that did I injure my back at 25, 26?
It was a good few years ago now, so yeah, 25-ish.
Before I get onto this, let me tell you the story of how I injured my back. So we're kind of man children over here, and back then, we don't do this anymore, but back then we had Nerf guns. Just to kind of lighten the mood, every so often we'd do that or play table tennis. But one day I just pretended I was James Bond and dove across the floor and landed. And I got up and I was like all twisted, and I had heard something kind of snap or something, like not a bone, but it was a gross feeling. And then for the wedding season after that, I was just totally bent over. And I remember shooting at another wedding in Edinburgh, and literally, like, I carry a piece of equipment where I'm like it's one heavy load on my arm extended for most of the day, or that's how I used to shoot then. And it was, again, all the weight was on that sore side, so I would be like doubly bent over, and during a break I sat down on a couch, couldn't get up.
Yeah, I literally had to pull him off the seat.
Greg had to pull me off, and the pain was just excruciating. So they say that Nerf guns aren't dangerous, but they are. They are.
Or impersonating James Bond is dangerous. The Nerf guns are all right.
Do 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 do. Yeah, I am. Yes, yeah. Maybe not dive to the ground.
So obviously, a lot of those injuries stem from sitting at a computer, hunched over, editing photos or replying to emails. How can people sort of avoid those sort of things?
Yeah, I think that let me go back to where I think Simon was going before, when he was saying that he was embarrassed to go to the gym and do exercise because, one, he had an unhealthy relationship with it, and then two, because your back was sore, you probably felt like a bit of a dick because you wouldn't be able to do most things. Yeah. Is that what you... That is exactly what it was. Thank you for reminding me. We've had tons of conversations in the gym about this, so like I know how you think in regards to exercise. So I think that we had it last week. I coached one of yours. I don't coach that much anymore, which I feel really, really gutted about, but it's just one of those things. But I coached one of your sessions last week, or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, and one of the girls came in carrying. So you guys ended up doing the same thing because you both have a sore back, or you both. I just didn't think it was a good idea for either of you to deadlift, which is typically a movement that is a great movement, but it's also a high risk movement for people with back injuries, and it's also one that a lot of people end up hurting their back on. So for people with back injuries, we tend to try and avoid deadlifts as much as we can, and if we do them light. But anyway, so Karen came in and she just looked worried. She came running up and she just said, Ross, it was 6 a.m. She'd driven here to the gym. She said, Ross, I just don't think I should be here. Like, my back's really sore. And she's a bit of an issue with her back because she's got a long commute to work. She spends all day sitting down. She's got a long commute back, and it's getting to her. And I said, look, just give me 10 minutes to get you guys warm. And if it doesn't feel any better, then like go home. Absolutely. But give me 10 minutes, because I think that she'd been at the physio the day before. She told me what the physio said, and then based on my kind of relationship with the physio, if these physios that we use tell people they can train, then I'm fairly confident in our skills as coaches to be able not to do any additional harm. So I said, like, give me 10 minutes of this warm up just to see if you feel better, and if you do, then stay, and if you don't, then on you go. But don't just go home just now, because I think that moving will help, because that's typically, as long as it's not like real bad damage, like nerve damage or like crushed discs and stuff like that, if it's a bit of a kind of like, a lot of the time the issues with bad back is around about the sciatic nerve, so the muscles get tight around about the sciatic nerve, it compresses it and it sends like shooting pains down people's legs, and a lot of time like movement just helps. It helps relax the muscles, because when the back gets sore, it spasms up to protect. So loosening it off and promoting new blood flow into the muscle like helps it relax and helps you be able to move better. So after the warm up, I said, look, are you feeling better? She said, I'm feeling a bit better. I said, right, give me the rest of the session, and if you feel comfortable, just give me the rest of the session. And like I think like 90% that come the end of the session, you'll be thanking me for not letting you go home. And if not, you can take a run and boot me in the boss, right? And she's been with us for ages, so like typically when people have been training for a while, you've built up a level of trust where they're like, right, if you're saying that, then I'm going to, unless I just feel it and it's just not right, I'm going to trust you. So she trusts me, and then after that session she was feeling cool. So the whole point in that is that like movement just helps. There's some things you just shouldn't do, but the best kind of any kind of physio or doctor that I've dealt with, who I actually respect their opinion, because a lot of physios and doctors just say rest for 6 to 8 weeks. That's just like the go-to, because they don't want you to go and make it worse and then blame them for telling you they could do stuff. So it takes a doctor with a real interest and kind of passion for fitness to be able to say, you're actually okay to train, just do this and do this and do this. And most of them don't have that. Sport and exercise physios will have that. So the guys we use are very much training based. So we know that if we send somebody to them and they say, Ross, they need to rest for 8 weeks, I'm like, cool, that's serious, rest for 8 weeks. But a lot of other physios, people come back and say, physio says to rest for 6 to 8 weeks. I'm like, well, can you go and see our physios? Because like they understand that people have got to move. Because for me, my biggest issue is that most people come to us because they want to feel better with themselves and they want to lose body weight and they want to get stronger. Sitting in your arse for 8 weeks with a sore back is not going to help you feel better about yourself, get stronger and lose weight. In fact, it's going to do the opposite. You're going to sit there depressed, you're going to eat sweets, you're going to eat chocolate, you're going to eat ice cream, and you're going to end up in a worse state. So for me, like even coming in and doing the bare minimum is going to be better than sitting in your backside for 6 to 8 weeks. So I think a lot of doctors and physios look at it purely from a physical point of view, whereas I try and look at it from a physical and a psychological point of view, because the individual's coming to me with the goal of wanting to feel better about themselves and wanting to improve their body composition and their body. They go to the doctor and the physio because they want to improve that pain, So I try and have a more holistic view. So for me, the best thing to do when you've got a sore back is to move, but just move sensibly, and that might just be like going for a walk every day, like on your lunch break. It might be going for a walk at night when you go home. And I know these things aren't necessarily practical, but ultimately, if you've got a sore back, once it gets a certain point, you're going to be able to do. You're going to do fucking anything to get rid of that pain. Like you walk across hot coals just to get rid of the back pain, because it's debilitating and it's totally demoralising. So I think that the best piece of advice is just to try and move, like walk, go on a cross trainer. If you're a member of a training gym and you've got access to coaches, like do a session that's coached and just let them know your back's sore. And as much as like the individual, I know you touched upon it earlier, feels as if like they're a hindrance and they're getting in the way and they're being a pain in the arse to the coach, but if you've got a personal trainer or you're doing some sort of small group training, like that's what the coach is there for. Like I always say, like, you're paying for personal training. Let us personalise your training. Like,
that's
I can't do what everyone else is doing. Well, you're not fucking paying me to do what everyone else is doing. You can do that at another gym in a group of 30 people.
Yeah.
Like, they'll happily train you, but like, let us personalise your training. And when I put it like that, people are like, right, yeah, cool. I'm paying for that. So yeah, cool. So let us individualise it. And we've had the quick chat with the coaches over the years, where the coaches are saying, like, I don't really want to change things because it makes that person feel like the odd one out. I'm like, but the person's paying you to individualise it. Like, if you get 4 people, they could be doing 4 totally different things.
Yeah.
Like, it's your responsibility to do different things with those people if you think that's what's best. And if they're not happy with it, then remind them of that. And if they're not happy with it, again, send them to talk to me and I'll explain it better.
Yeah.
Or I'll explain it in those terms, because it's like, because that's the way I look at it. So hopefully that answers that question in terms of what Simon said.
Yeah.
And then in terms of what you said, in terms of Greg, in terms of what to do, like getting out walking, I think a stand-up desk is brilliant. You know, because you're, as much as you're standing at the weekend, and that's the problem. It's a problem because you're hunched over with like 10, 20, 30 kilos worth of kit on one side. But if you got a standing desk, and I do a lot of work at like my kitchen worktops, I don't have a standing desk, but I just kind of make them. Like, just put the laptop at
stack
height.
some boxes.
Yeah, just put that. And we've got, in our new gym, we've got a reception there, and we're intending on getting a seat behind reception. And Rachel, after the first day, she was like, "Do you think we need a seat?" I said, "Why?" She said, "Well, I think whenever I sit down, I feel relaxed, whereas when I'm standing up, I feel as if I get stuff done quicker." It's like, we're not getting a seat. And it's kind of like, for Rachel and I, Rachel's probably like maybe 5'7", 5'8", and I'm probably, as much as I think I'm 6'4", I'm probably 5'8", 5'9" in a dating profile if I was ever on one. But Big Callum, one of the coaches, 6'3", 6'4", and he said, "Ross, I can't stand here. Like, my arms don't reach the desk." So he sits down at it. But I think that a standing desk is a really good idea. Like, there's no reason for, in this setup, there's no reason you guys couldn't have a standing desk. Obviously,
I mean,
your stools are higher, so you could kick the stools away.
We've got a half-arsed attempt at it.
Yeah.
So I'm similar to, I can't remember what name you just said there, but the height these desks are at, they're not quite standing desks because it hurts my wrists to get to the right sort of height for the keyboard. So they're not ideal, but apart from the wrists, it gets everything else standing up. And I do stand up a fair bit here. Yeah,
he's lying.
I'd like a good standing desk.
They're expensive though, because as you said, just stick a couple of boxes on top of your on top of your desk, and you're there. But I think that's a massive thing. I think that most people spend far too much time sitting down. I think that generally speaking, people don't have to. I think it's just easier to sit down.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, when we get people come in at the back, it was actually Ali that started doing this with people. Whenever people come in to the gym and say, I've got back pain, because we get it a lot when people join the gym, they're like, I've got a bad back that I need to be careful. So, okay, cool. And then Ali just started asking people how they sit at their desk, and see the fucked up ways people sit at a desk during the day. Like, so how do you sit at a desk? Because we're sitting here just now, and Greg, your body's a little bit twisted.
Skewed,
so sitting there for a long time, that you're probably going to get sore. Simon, you're kind of twisted the other way, but not as much. And I'm kind of fairly straight on, but whenever I talk to you, Greg, I'm twisting. But you see some people, and I'm going to move away from the mic, so I'm conscious that my volume might not be great. In fact, I'll try and pull it with me so you can see what I'm doing with my legs. But this is so common for people to sit at their desk with like one foot underneath the other foot, and they sit like this all the way forward.
I used to sit like that. In fact, I used to do I used to put my leg on top of it, so sitting cross-legged. Yeah, but with one leg, just one side. So like, what you're doing is like really compressing this side of the hip and stretching out this side of the hip, and then you end up like with an imbalance in your lower back. And like, I'm not a spinal specialist, but I know that's not good if you're doing that every day for like 40 hours a week.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who work from home being photographers, and they'll sit with a laptop on their knee on the sofa, probably in the worst positions ever. So
totally. Sofas are really bad. Like, I find, like, I sit on my sofa, and I really shouldn't. You know, you're kind of slouch. You're not slouching, but it's the natural design. They're so deep that you kind of to lie back is like, I don't know, to curve your whole spine. And
whenever I'm on the couch, I try and sit with my legs straight, and it's not because of anything to do with. That's just where I find I'm most comfortable on a couch. But yeah, I totally agree. Like, you just find you just look at people, and you just assume when people say I sit down at my desk, and you just assume that they sit like how a normal human would sit, up straight, good posture. But then you actually ask people how they sit at the desk, and you're like, are you honestly asking me why your back's sore when you like look at how you're sitting? And then ask yourself the same question, and you tell me why your back's sore. But I think that something I try and do is always take calls on my feet. So I'm on the phone quite a lot, whether it's like, with opening the new gym, whether it's with suppliers, contractors, the designer, whether it's with, I've not been in the gym that much, or whether it's with one of the trainers in the gym to see how things are going, or whether it's, up until now, I've always spoken to new people before they come into the gym. So if someone's inquired, I've always tried to get on the phone with them, and then I'll spend 10-15 minutes on the phone. So whenever I do that, I always try and do it from a standing position, because I feel that when I'm standing, I feel as if I'm more assertive. I feel as if I'm a little bit, not necessarily more confident, but I feel as if I just speak at a bit of a faster rate. I just think that my conversation flows better. Obviously, it's different for us just now because we're all sitting down in a chilled out environment. But when you're talking to something and you're trying to sell something, then I feel as if it helps. I think that's another good tip. So even if you've not got a standing desk, there's no point. There's no need to sit down when you're on the phone, because you can go up and you can be walking around, and even if it's just pacing back and forward in the office or the living room or whatever, I think it helps massively. Yeah.
So you recently had a BBC Radio show with Tom Ury.
I did indeed.
Right? Called Fit in 5. Do you think any of the tactics that you spoke about on the show would help with these kind of situations? And if so, what were the kind of key talking points for those who missed it?
The simple answer is yes. Like Fit in 5, the whole design for Fit in 5 from the producer's perspective was to make fitness less intimidating and to lower the barrier of entry for fitness, because people think about gyms and think about fitness and they just think of these like ripped six packs and massive biceps and girls with Instagram booties, and fitness isn't like that. That's the high end of fitness. That's the top kind of 1 to 5%. Generally speaking, fitness is, and gyms are full of people who aren't in the best shape. A gym is there to help people improve their shape. It's not there for people to join already in shape. But the perception, I believe anyway, from the general public who don't use gyms, is that gyms are for fit people. But gyms aren't for fit people. Gyms are for people to go to get fit.
Yeah.
And if people have been in a gym for many years, then they will most likely be fit. But they weren't born that way. I wasn't fit when I first walked into the gym. I didn't have muscles when I first walked into the gym. I still don't necessarily have muscles now, but they're certainly bigger than they were when I was 14. But I think that's the general misconception. So Fit in 5, the whole point in that was like, right, most people don't want to go to a gym because they're terrified of it. And I'm like, cool, I get that, because we've tried to be like the non-offensive and non-terrifying gym in town. So I get the fact that people are terrified, and we've been trying to combat that. But they're like, yeah, but we want to combat it even deeper. So we want to basically encourage people to get out walking, encourage people to do bodyweight exercises, and encourage people to do it in their own home or in their office, where they're away from the prying eyes of people who they would perceive to be watching them, looking at them and being judgmental. So that's what Fit in 5 was about. And I think that the contestant, we got a couple of volunteers to come on the show from Inverness, because that's where the producers were from, and they all markedly improved their fitness over the course of the 5 weeks. It was like the first week in January to the first week in February, second week in February, and they did fitness tests. The whole thing with that was that fitness should be the main kind of focus, as opposed to weight loss, because everybody does weight loss challenges and weight loss programs and stuff like that, and I think that a lot of times that leads people to have a really unhealthy relationship with exercise and a really unhealthy relationship with food. Whereas if you focus on the fitness side of it, and you see your fitness improving, which is the first thing you do see, you feel your recovery times speed up, you're not as sore between sessions, you find you get through sessions easier, you maybe felt sick at the 20-minute mark, and then the second session you felt sick at the 40-minute mark, and as much as that's still a fairly disgusting thought process, it's still improvement. So the premise of it was to focus on fitness, and then by virtue of people's fitness improving, they will then continue those positive kind of like movements or positive decisions into their diets, and therefore into the rest of their life, and it'll benefit their weight, but indirectly, but benefit their weight. So that was the point in Fit in 5. And for you guys, or for the people listening, the basic bodyweight exercises that we did in the show, which I believe will still be available on the BBC website at bbc.co.uk/fit-in-5, I think is the URL.
Cool. I'll find the link and put it in the show notes.
The exercises are all in there. They were on the BBC website and the BBC Facebook page, but they will all help, because ultimately if you're the stronger you are and the fitter you are, the more able you're going to be to carry around camera kit and film weddings, and if your endurance is better, you'll be able to do it for a longer period without getting as tired, and that for me must be the most difficult thing for you guys, when you're into your 7th hour of filming or whatever it is, and your arm's starting to shake and your back's starting to get sore. Like the stronger and fitter you are and the better endurance you have, the easier that's going to be, and therefore the more enjoyable your job's going to be, and the less terrified you're going to be of had to sit down and edit videos for a full day with your body aching, because your body will be in a better place. So for me, those simple exercises, which were designed for people who are, all the exercise I was doing was for people who are like 50 plus and haven't exercised before. So if most of the people listening are going to be ages with us, i.e. late 20s, early to mid 30s, give or take 10 years, it should be a canter for them to start doing that. And it's like just simple things like sitting down onto a seat and standing back up for 30 seconds. Like, my gran's 85, and I reckon that if the seat was high enough, she could probably do that. And like, she can't really walk to the end of her flat anymore. Yeah. So if she can do that, I'm pretty sure anybody else can do that.
Yeah. With Jack was designed from the ground up and is tailored specifically for creatives. Whether you provide a service like design, development or photography, or offer advice to clients, With Jack is for you. It's focused on creatives. Insurance shouldn't be complicated, so With Jack has made every step easy. You'll deal with one form and talk to one Jack as you sign up, get covered, and move on with your day. With Jack is all about bespoke insurance for creatives. Simple. That doesn't mean more forms or faff, it means less. It's not about endless features and stale service. It's about one solid policy and the personal touch. Bye-bye unnecessary fuss. Hello, creative friendly insurance. Be a confident creative. Yeah, well, we've talked about the physical benefits of exercise. What about the mental side of things? You spoke about it briefly. Is there a correlation between what we do with our bodies and what we do with our minds? How does our mental well-being improve with fitness? If it does.
Yeah, I mean, I think I need to go kind of anecdotally here as opposed to science-based, but certainly for us, we find that we've got a lot of people who come to us suffering with depression and anxiety. I think that's becoming more and more acceptable to talk about in society today. I think it's all over social media. You could argue that social media is making the issue worse, but it's certainly making awareness of the issue better. Because again, 15 years ago, I think I knew one person who was depressed when I was 14, 15 in school, and that was one of my friend's mums who was in her bed all the time. Like, okay, that's what depression is. Whereas now, everybody seems to be suffering from depression at some degree. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but I just think it's becoming more socially acceptable to either admit to it or it's becoming more commonly diagnosed. So we certainly got a lot of people who come through who have either suffered in the past or currently suffer. And I think that a lot of people at the start are very, very apprehensive to share that information. So a lot of people don't disclose it when they first start, and then after they become comfortable enough, they say, "Oh, by the way, I'm suffering from this or this or this." And what we find and what we've experienced over the years is that those who are suffering with depression and anxiety, which are two of the most common mental health issues, feel a massive positive impact from exercising. They feel that when they don't exercise, their anxiety increases. If they're used to exercising 3-4 times a week and they only make it in once, their anxiety in the days that they don't train goes through the roof and they feel a lot shitter towards the end of the week. Those suffering with depression, it's the same if they're going through a bad time. The kind of little endorphin rush that you get at the end of a workout, that feeling of positivity, like I've achieved something, I've ticked a box, that then leads to more positive steps throughout the rest of the day. Now, obviously, there's chronic cases where like you need a hell of a lot more than a workout to get your mind back on track. But certainly from the people that we've trained over the years who have suffered with depression and anxiety, it's a massive help. Mm-hmm. And for myself, as much as I've never been diagnosed with anything, I would never claim to have had depression. But I do feel as if that when I've been through tough times, I was married and divorced within 5 months when I was 28. I've opened 2 gyms now, and I think they're fairly stressful things to do. And being in really tight situations where it's like, fuck, if we don't do this, we could lose the business, or if I don't do this, I'm not going to be able to pay wages and stuff. So stressful situations, and training always helps that. Whether it's hitting the bag, whether it's going for a run, whether it's lifting weights, whether it's whatever that training modality is, you never feel worse after a workout unless you get injured during it. Which some people do, and you definitely feel worse if you get injured during it. But typically speaking, if you come in and do a workout, no matter how bad you feel when you walk in, once you finish the workout, like your mood is lifted, and then that should have a knock-on effect onto the rest of the day. And I think that people who don't exercise regularly, that's the bit that they just don't understand. And they're very open about the fact they don't understand it. Like, I don't get this runner's high. I don't get this endorphin rush people talk about. I fucking hate training. I hate exercise. Gyms are shite. And you're like, well, you've never really given it enough of a chance. I've been to the gym once when I was 14 or when I was 20, I went to the gym. It's like, well, you're 40 now. Life's changed, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that it has a massive impact, and I think that most people just don't really give themselves the chance to feel good, because they either go and they train far too hard too soon and they skirmill themselves with it, or they go and don't do enough, and therefore they think, that's a waste of my time, I don't feel good after that. Whereas if you're taken through a good session that's appropriate to your current levels of fitness and your current like kind of injuries and weaknesses and whatever, then you should leave thinking, man, that was brilliant.
Yeah, I know that like I'm not the most active of people, but I go through phases of running, and I know that when I go out a run in the morning, I'm way more productive the rest of that day. It's like you just feel better. It's something strange,
but humans, we're just a stupid species, because like, you know that, and yet you don't do it every day.
I wake up in the morning with my running shoes set out so as I have to see them and consciously decide whether to go. And I'll still look at them and go, oh, I can't be bothered, it's raining. But I know that after half an hour when I'm back, I'm like, feel good. Like, it might hurt, but I feel good for the rest of the day.
Well, totally. And I talk about that. Anybody who owns a business, who gets in contact with our gym and who trains at our gym or whatever, whenever they bring price into it, like, oh, it's quite expensive. It's like, but it'll make you more productive. Training with us will make you more productive, which will then earn you more money.
Yeah.
So like that expense will level itself out by you just doing better at your workplace. Like, and then I take us away. I'm like, even if you don't train with us, train somewhere, because you'll do better at work.
Yeah.
You know, and don't get me wrong, I've been through months and months and months where I haven't trained because I've found every excuse where I haven't wanted to train the gym. You know, I've maybe not even wanted to go to my own gym because I'm like, man, if I go in there, I'm going to lose a rag with such and such about such and such. And, you know, I want to get in and get out, get my work done and get away. So don't get, there's times, I've for the past 15 years, I've not trained, 7 times a week, every week for the full times. I'm not David Goggins, but it certainly helps. It certainly helps make people feel better with themselves.
Yeah. So relating that to like photographers, a lot of people towards the end of wedding season, they're like, oh my God, I've got this backlog built up. So they're going to be like, oh, I don't want to spend half an hour going to run or going to the gym or an hour. But that half an hour might actually make you work better and faster for the rest of the day.
You get to a point of diminishing returns when you're working, don't you? Because like staring at a computer screen isn't working. Like working is working.
Yeah.
And you find that a lot of people are like, I don't have the time to do that. Like, well, you do. You're just not being smart enough with the way that you spend time. And again, I'm not trying to claim that doesn't apply to me as well. There's times I'll sit in a laptop and it's been open, and I thought, what have I done in the past hour? I've sent one email.
Yeah.
Like that's like I could have been doing anything else. I could have been watching Netflix and it would have been just as productive, So I'm not trying to say I'm an angel in that regard, but there's certainly, if you're to take an hour-long break and go for a run for half an hour and eat a nutritious meal, you're going to find that you're going to get more done in the afternoon than you would do if you just worked all the way through and, grabbed a sandwich and a cake and a can of Coke. You're going to feel that an hour later you're going to start to kind of slump and get tired and get that kind of drowsy way that you just wouldn't get if you went for a run and had a healthy lunch.
Yeah. So obviously I've been with your gym for ages, but I haven't always gone, and I've come in and out of coming in regularly and then not coming in for months. Like, there's been that slump. For people who are listening and who are in a slump, how can you help them get out of it? Like, what can you say that's going to motivate them into doing exercise?
I think it's really difficult to give a blanket answer to that because everybody's so different. I think that if I'd have got in touch with you in one of the times that you're in a slump and said, Simon, get your fucking finger out, you've been a lazy bastard, you're letting everybody down, like, that's just going to, like, you're letting yourself down, you're letting Greg down because you won't be working as hard, you're letting Lindsay down because you bet you're not being good with the kids just now because you're probably being grumpy.
Like,
if I'd have put that on you, it would have made you feel 10 times worse. And I'm not saying that's what I was thinking at that time, but
to be fair, that might have worked on me because I'm one of those weird people.
So I wouldn't have expected that to work for you, but next time it happens, ask me again. I'm just going to cut that. Ask Greg to send me over that clip and just send you it next time that happens. But for some people, that's what they need.
Yeah.
Like, oi, get your finger out. You're letting everybody down around about you. You're being lazy. fucking move.
He's looking at you, Greg.
And I'm looking at you just so you don't think I'm talking to you. But that's what, some people need that, but then other people need an arm around them. Just be like, mate, is everything all right? Like, is there anything we can do to help? And that's that because you've received that so many times from our gym. Like, that's always our approach, because we always want to be the kind of like caring, empathetic place. If you want to come in for a chat, like, come in for a chat and we'll talk about how to kind of ease you back in. Yeah. So for people who don't have a coach or don't have access to that help or accountability, I think that me telling them just to get up and get on with it isn't necessarily the most helpful thing. But I think what's a really helpful exercise to do is to just evaluate your life, evaluate like where you currently are, where you want to go, and then figure out the best way to get there. And for anybody who's going to do that exercise honestly and legitimately, they're going to have exercise as part of that. Yeah. Because we know that exercise makes people feel better. We know it helps decrease body fat. We know it helps retain and increase muscle mass. We know it improves heart and lung function. We know it helps people live longer. Like, we know it enhances people's mood and improves people's sleep. So if you want to be more productive, if you want to be a better parent, if you want to be a better partner, if you want to change your body, like, exercise is going to be part of your weekly plan. It doesn't need to be every single day, but it's going to be part of your weekly plan, because like the only downside is that you have to invest time and potentially money, because you're either going to have a gym membership, you're going to have to hire a trainer, you're going to have to buy shoes and shorts and t-shirts. So anyway around it, you're going to have to spend some money. So the negatives are the time and the monetary investment, but that is a small downside for a massive potential upside. So I think that would be my go-to piece of advice for people who are currently in a slump or who have never really been into exercise, is just evaluate what you want from life, evaluate where you want to improve and where you want to be better. And I'd be shocked if I ever had a conversation with somebody who honestly told me what they wanted and then told me that exercise didn't have any part to play in that kind of process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just, I mean, you said, if people don't train with you, train somewhere else. Training doesn't always have to be at a gym.
Of course not.
Like, any kind of physical activity, whether that be climbing or football or rugby or tennis, or maybe not table tennis, but good try, Greg. Anything like that can have a huge impact on your just your well-being, and getting that exercise in a way that doesn't feel like exercise.
Yeah, training's always been my word for it. So like when I went to football training, it was training. When I went to Thai boxing training, it was training. When I went to jiu-jitsu, it was training. When I lift weights, it's training. When I go for a run, it's running or training. But like, it's just always training. So like, training is just my word for doing physical activity. Yeah. And I'm aware that whenever I use that word, it's that can be an off-putting word. You've just highlighted that. That can be off-putting for some people, because like, I'm not an athlete. I don't want to train. I just want to do some gentle exercise. Like, well, that for me is still training. I've trained the last 3 or 4 days, which is quite unusual for me, but I'm getting into a pretty good routine at the moment, and it is just gentle exercise. Like, I'm not doing anything mental. I'm not trying to break records. I'm just getting a little bit of a sweat on, getting my heart rate up a little bit, testing my muscles, and going for a shower after it, and that's all I'm doing. So what I'm doing isn't even as hard as what you guys do in sessions in the gym. It's just like, I just want to try and do something most days, every other day, because I know it helps me feel better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the reason I brought that up is obviously because so last weekend we did like a family workshop fitness kind of camp thing next door, and I'm really sorry, but I've forgotten the name of the guy. I'm pretty sure his name is Daryl Edwards, and he wrote a book called Animal Moves, if anyone wants to check that out. But I'm pretty sure that's his name. But mainly it was stuff that you can do with your kids. It's like, hopping like a rabbit, or like doing the bear crawls with your kids on your back, or something like that. Something that not only is, testing your muscles and you're using your body, but also engaging with your family and friends and stuff like that. So I thought it was quite interesting. But he said that he doesn't use the word exercise, which is kind of like training. And I'm not sure if I quite agree with him. He said that there was a negative connotation with the word exercise. I don't know if I feel that. I feel like exercise comes with positive feelings, but I understand when you say you've got to exercise, it's like a positive thing for your life. But then you say training, that's actually doing the exercise. So I
I get where you're coming from. I get where he's coming from. I think that potentially what he means by that is that by saying you have to exercise, people just look at it as something they have to commit to and something they have to think about. Whereas what what you're describing is he's just saying this is just something you do. Just move around with your kids. Just move. Just have some fun and play. But whether it's playing, like whether it's, you know, I just trained with my brother-in-law in our gym there, and we're holding pads for each other and hitting the bag. Like for me, that's playing. Like I'm just playing around. I'm just hitting the bag. Like I'm just having a bit of fun. I'm switching my brain off. Like that's me playing. I would also refer to it as training. I could refer to it as exercise. I think that the bottom line is that people are fucking soft, and if they're scared of like the words like exercise and training, like man, fuck, just go on, mate. Yeah. Just do something.
I suppose you're right.
Going for a walk is exercise. You know, like you walk up the stairs to go to the toilet. You walk to go and get a coffee. Like that's exercise. It's like getting your steps up. Like, there shouldn't be a kind of snobbery about exercise, which, you know, I guess that's why we need to talk about potential negative stigmas attached to it, because there is a snobbery about it, but there shouldn't be. It's bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I haven't read his book yet, but when he used the word, I suppose he meant like that kind of scheduled time. It's less trying to get to somewhere rather than just enjoying doing the thing that you're doing and doing it a little bit differently. Like he used the example of like if he's watching TV, the remote's over the other side of the room, he'll crawl over, like bear crawl over to the remote and stuff like that. He said he looks like a weirdo, and I can imagine that would be true. Yeah. But I'm sure his kids would love it.
I think that is something that a lot of people in our industry, being sort of self-employed, they've maybe got kids, and that's why they work from home. So they might use the excuse of, busy with the kids, I can't go for an hour to the gym, but that's something that they could do. Be more conscious of doing. Yeah. Just
and the whole thing about Fit in 5, like the BBC thing that I did, was that like do it in the house. Like here's exercise you can do at home. Like that was the gym wasn't even mentioned. In fact, what was constantly said, and it didn't annoy me, but I was kind of thinking like, why is a gym owner on here while they're telling people not to bother going to a gym? Why have you got a gym owner in to do this? But it's like, you don't need a fancy gym membership for this, and it's like, well, you don't. Like, do you, Ross? And I'm like all I do is sell gym memberships. Like that's my job, is to sell gym memberships, and you're asking me to go against that and tell people they don't need a gym. But you know, people absolutely don't need a gym. If a gym's a luxury, if people don't have the time to go to it or don't have the money to go to a gym, whether it's a cheap gym, expensive gym, whatever, then you can absolutely do it in your own house. You can go for walks and you can do anything. But ultimately, training, exercise, moving, whatever you decide to call it, whatever you want to label it as, is just going to be doing a little bit more than what you're currently doing. That's it.
Yeah. Yes. Is there any apps or anything that you would recommend for people to take that first step before they invest in going to a gym?
I think that YouTube is beautiful.
Yeah.
YouTube is beautiful. You can find out how to do anything on YouTube. And I think that I think Couch to 5K is a really popular app for people to use, like to start walking and jogging, and I don't think that's ever going to be a bad thing. I'll kind of caveat that with saying that if you're like overweight and you're carrying too much excess body weight, running might not be the best idea, because it's a lot of stress in your ankles, knees and hips that they're not going to like, and you're probably going to find that you get injured quite quickly running. So you might want to build up a base of fitness before you start running, because I think that's a really common thing people do. People see running as the most accessible way to exercise, because as you touched upon, all you need is a pair of trainers and you're away. But if your body's not ready for that impact, then you can end up hurting yourself. But if you just type in easy beginners bodyweight workouts into YouTube, then you'll be able to kind of watch somebody on the screen and do it along with them. And that's, for me, I think that's probably the easiest way for people to get into it. You just got to make sure that you're not, if you see somebody doing something that you just look as if you're not going to be able to do and it looks a bit mad, just skip it and do something easier.
Use common sense.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. You mentioned David Goggins earlier. Are there any books for people to check out? Like, because I know there's a good majority of our listeners who actually like to buy and read books. It's crazy. Who reads books nowadays? But apparently lots of people do.
In terms of exercise?
Yeah, like exercise or motivation, lifestyle.
Yeah. I think that I don't really read much exercise stuff anymore.
See, who reads?
I think all the. I mean, I listen. I go through periods of listening to Audible. I'm a big fan of audiobooks. I find that I've got a really short attention span, so actually sitting reading a book is difficult for me, because I've always got something else to do. Whereas an audiobook on when I'm driving or when I'm in the flat or walking or whatever, it helps. But for me, like, it's never really exercise stuff. I know a friend of mine, Scott Baptist, just released a book called The 101 Ways to Lose Weight and Keep It Off or something like that. And I'm a big fan of Scott's. He talks sense. A lot of fitness guys kind of sell their soul once they get to a certain level of followers / fame, and they start preaching stuff that they would never normally have preached because they're now getting more money, and they start trying to deliver swankier catchier headlines and book titles and stuff like that, whereas Scott has always held on to his values and his ethics, which I admire and respect. So his book is good, but it's more a kind of lifestyle, and I guess there's fitness stuff in it, there's mindset stuff in it, there's nutrition stuff in it, so that's a good book to read. And it's also very, very, very easy to consume. There's no geeky jargon in it, there's no nonsense, it's just like just dead simple, which again is a smart thing for him to do. In terms of other books, in terms of lifestyle, I'm not really sure. I think all the books I read nowadays are all business based.
I was going to say, is there any businessy ones sort of that you would recommend for that?
Yeah, definitely. Let me just whip out Audible.
Checking your Audible account.
I'm just going to start spitting them at you. Some of the ones I've read recently. I think that one of the things that we have to do as self-employed people is sell, and I think that is something that a lot of people are uncomfortable doing. One of my favourite films is The Wolf of Wall Street, and I know it's a little bit of an unethical film because obviously he's a massive criminal and spent a lot of time in jail, but from a sales perspective he's one of the best salesmen like in the history of the world. And Jordan Belfort now has a book called the Straight Line System, so the Way of the Wolf Straight Line System, which is just brilliant. It's just about how to sell, and it's now, because he's obviously been imprisoned and he's back out and he's now selling this system, it's now how to sell it ethically. So it's like, look, if you don't feel as if the person's a good fit for your brand or for your product or for your service, like, don't sell them it. So he's always got that, so I feel comfortable promoting that book without necessarily promoting a criminal. But that's a really good book to because it just makes selling more comfortable. The Everything Store by Brad
Amazon?
Stone about Amazon is a really good book. Setting the Table by a guy called Danny Meyer, which is a book about management. He's a restaurant owner from New York City, and he talks about managing people, because I think that as you grow a business and you start to hire staff, it becomes very, very difficult to make sure everybody's preaching the company line or towing the company line, everyone's on the same page, and trying to make sure that everybody's following the systems the way that you want the systems to be followed. That's a very difficult thing. So that's a good book. I'll talk about a couple more. Shoe Dog, which is the autobiography by Phil Knight. I've
always been intrigued to listen to that.
Brilliant.
It's been on my list for a while.
It's a long one. I think it's 13 hours, 20 minutes.
It's quite daunting when you look at that. You're like,
it is, but it's brilliant because he suffered so many setbacks and he failed so many times, and he was on the brink of bankruptcy so many times, and he's obviously turned it into one of the world's biggest and most recognisable brands. So it's a really, really good book. I like Business for Punks by James Watt, the guy who created Brewdog, one of the co-founders of Brewdog. That was a brilliant book as well, because it's just all about, like, this is the conventional way to do things, this is the way we did things. We went the opposite way.
There's quite a lot of good alternative marketing techniques. Like, obviously they go to the extremes, but it gets you thinking, what could I do that's a bit different? Yeah,
totally. I mean, a massive set of balls to do some of the things. Right, we'll go two more. Legacy by James Kerr. Have you heard of that one? It's about the All Blacks, the New Zealand rugby team, and it's basically about, like, the culture of that team and why the team was so successful, and the culture of the organisation. And I think that, again, as a business grows, the culture that the organisation has is the most important thing about that organisation, because ultimately, if your internal culture is broken or isn't quite right, then everything that you then put out, to the way that you answer phone calls, the way you speak to customers or clients or couples whenever you first meet them, if the culture isn't set, then there's not going to be a level of consistency that person is going to trust. And I think that's the biggest thing that people fall out with businesses for, is a level of inconsistency. If you go to McDonald's and get a Big Mac in Glasgow or China, it's going to be the same. And that's why McDonald's, Starbucks, if you get a latte from Starbucks, it's going to be the same. Like, we're not going to enjoy it as much as we enjoyed the coffee we had earlier on. But if you're in a foreign country that nobody speaks English, you're going to know what you're going to get from McDonald's and Starbucks. So Legacy is a great book. And then the last one is the ebook Revisited by Michael Gerber. That's a great book because, again, as you guys are probably the same as me, you started off as technicians. You started off like just editing, like shooting film, editing the film, publishing the film, but now you're in the position where you've now got to do all the customer facing stuff, balance the books, do the accounts, the finances, we're having to do the marketing, we're having to do the sales, and it's a difficult thing. So the ebook talks about having a technician, the manager, and entrepreneur, and you can't be all three. The technician's going to struggle to be a manager, the manager's going to struggle to be an entrepreneur. Within your business, as it grows, you're going to want to make sure that there are people in those boots, or to fill those boots, so that you can then focus on building a business. And I think that I read that when I was younger and I didn't really quite understand it. And I went back and read it recently, maybe a couple of years ago, and I'm like, man, this is legitimately amazing. Yeah, like this just talks through all the problems that I've currently got, because I was trying to fill all of the roles, and now kind of just taking certainly a step back from the technician side, which you can see in the gym, because I'm not really on the gym floor much at all. Although, that could change at any moment. All it takes is for us to get a surge of new members and then I'm back on the gym floor. But certainly at the moment, I'm very much like the entrepreneur, and I have a little bit of management. Yeah. And I let the guys crack on with it. So that's a great book as well. Yeah. I think that's maybe a tough one for people in our industry, like florists or photographers, to get their head around, because most of the time they're a one-man band or one-woman band. Yeah. So they might not think that suits them, but like I've listened to it and just think like setting up processes, and it does sort of connect, even if you are just a really small business. Yeah, I mean, one or two people. And that's kind of how we'd run our business. Like I edit. I mean, you put together all the you sync everything up. I edit and do all the kind of creative edits. You manage all the emails and stuff, and then together we decide where the business is going to be going. So some of those might not sound like they suit, because it's like building a team. They're like, oh no, it's always just going to be me. But it's worthwhile listening to some of these other perspectives to find out how other people in bigger businesses do things. Mm-hmm. So those are good recommendations. Yeah. I suppose, I mean, I'm the type of person who always, you're the type of person who always needs motivation to go and do exercise. I too feel that way. Although I feel like I want to be different than that. I want to be slightly better than that. I want to have that as part of my lifestyle, just without an end, having to reach an end goal, But this year, Greg and I actually decided to do Tough Mudder. Well, I don't think it was together. You and Susie decided to join up Tough Mudder, and you just sort of roped me into it. Yeah. Well, originally I was going to do the 5K one, but then I thought, it's not much of a challenge. I like how you consulted with your coaches before you made this decision. Yeah, well, I mean that kind of got me back in to coming to you guys. So, but go. You did it 2 years ago, I think, as part of the gym, and we did Total Warrior, which is like it's an alternative. I think that one of the girls in the gym was asking me the other day if we could do it as a gym. Yeah. And what I said, I'm like, look, I'm happy for you to promote it within the gym and to go and do it. Mm-hmm. I don't really want to do it as a gym because they're just stupid. They are just stupid, right? And I'll come full circle, because it's brilliant, and it's the sense of achievement's good, the camaraderie is good, it's good fun. It's hard, particularly if you're not used to. I mean, it's a half marathon distance for Tough Mudder, and most people can't run a half marathon. But I certainly can. But they seem as if like, do Tough Mudder, because that will make it easier having to climb over things whilst running a half marathon. Yeah, that is funny, because Susie's like, there's not going to be much running. Like, I don't know who Susie is, right? But she's talking pish. You're running a half marathon, but obviously people walk it and stuff like that. I think what her thinking is, it's not a timed event, so you don't need to run at the running bits. You can take your time. Well, the guy, I've read the guy's or listened to the guy's book who created Tough Mudder. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, look it up, it's good. And the reason it's not timed is because he was a triathlete. I think he was at Harvard or something like that, and he was a triathlete, and he couldn't get his shoes on when he came out of the swim, and he was trying to go on the bike and he couldn't get his shoes on, and nobody would stop to help him. Right. And he just thought, man, this is so fucked up. Why is nobody helping me? Because nobody wanted to like take a microsecond or a couple of seconds off their time. So he decided to create something that was within the fitness space that would promote people to be more active, give people something to train for, but not actually be timed where they had to compete, where they could help each other over it and create a sense of camaraderie and team spirit. So his book's really good because he talks about that. But Tough Mudder's hard, and the injury risk is really high because you're running through bogs and you're going over your ankles and you're climbing up things, you're falling off things, you're getting electrocuted, you're like, there's just a lot of daft stuff in it, which is brilliant for people who aren't fitnessy, or even if they are fitnessy, because it's an experience and it's great. But for me, one of the issues that we've got is that people have a lot of faith in us as coaches and as a facility, which is amazing, and I love that, and it's something that we've always set out for. But what I'm scared of is that when people, if we said we're going to do Tough Mudder as a gym, a lot of people would say, well, I never thought I'd be able to do that, but these guys will help me do it. And it then puts the onus on us to help them round the half marathon. And then their injury risk is just so high when it gets to those last couple of miles. Their fatigue levels will be so high and the sense of achievement will be high. But if we took 15, 20 people to Tough Mudder and 5 of them got injured, I would feel personally responsible for that. So for me, I said to the girl, I was like, you crack on and we'll support you, we'll help you out with it however which way you want. We can write you running training programs that you can go and do and stuff like that. But at the moment, if it was the 5K, I'd be cool, we'll do that. But the full Tough Mudder, I think, is just biting off a wee bit more than most people can chew. And then we did Total Warrior, and that kind of like backed up what I was thinking, because we were doing it, and some of the girls were like, man, I'm so happy I did that, like I achieved it, but I will never do something like that again. and I'm like, yeah, I get that, and we had a great time, and it was good, but it was also like, man, this probably isn't the smartest thing for us to be doing today when I was on the course doing it with them.
Did anyone get injured that time?
I don't think so. I think there was a lot of sore bodies and sore legs the next day, but there's certainly no bad injuries. But it was over a 10k distance. Yeah. And that was bad enough. 10k, 6 miles.
Yeah.
Oh God, what have I done? What have I done?
A half marathon is like a long way, but again, like the whole point of Mudder is it's fun, it's not competitive and stuff like that. So it's great. But yeah, and if people, the thing that's great about it as well is that it gives something, like, just like you've said, it gives you something to focus on, because sometimes training for the sake of training can get quite banal and it can get quite samey, and you're like, well, what am I actually working towards? And that's conversations we have all the time in the gym. People are like, well, what I want a goal, and it's like, well, I can't really give you a goal. Like, what do you want to do? Yeah. Like, well, I just feel as if I'm training I just feel as if I'm training, and like, well, that's a good thing because training's good for you. I know, but like, I'm competitive, I want something to aim for, and then like Tough Mudder fits that bill perfectly. It's like, well, train for that, Yeah.
That's definitely my mindset when it comes to exercise. I'm like, I won't do much for ages now. I'm like, I know I should have been exercising, so I'll sign up to a 10k or something, which I've done for this summer, and I thought that was going to be my target until these guys roped me into Tough Mudder. But I was like, when even signing up for 10k, I was like, I know I can do that if today. I want.
Yeah, I can do it
like,
today.
Even though I've not been running for a while, I can do a 10k, but I want to do it at a decent pace, was what my thinking was this time. But now I've actually got to get some strength, because I could do the Tough Mudder run, I'm pretty sure, with a bit of training. We've got time for that, but I'm like, yeah, gonna have to do some work.
Some upper body stuff. There's a lot of climbing over shit at Tough Mudder, or loads of hanging from stuff.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing to not worry about for Tough Mudder is everyone thinks they're going to have to do it alone. But like, you get human chains that form over things to climb over things, and like, you get people who are able or who are going to be fitter or stronger who'll help push people over obstacles and stuff like that. Yeah. So there's and obviously you can always just walk around them if you really can't do it. But everybody gets really, really terrified of like not being able to do stuff, and like the whole point in Tough Mudder is to help everybody do everything. The only thing I would say is that the monkey bars are the thing that terrifies most people. Because, and it's not like, most people are like, when you think about, like, you put it in practical terms for the gym, like if you think about trying to hold on to a 100 kilo deadlift, or like whatever your body weight is, you're trying to hold on to that weight on a bar, and you're like, man, my hands are slipping. It's the same when you're going to cross monkey bars. Like, if you weigh 100 kilos, like, your hands have got to then carry that 100 kilos. They're slippy, they're wet. Thousands of people have been before you and got mud all over them. Like, it's hard to go over them. And a lot of people like just aren't strong enough to carry their body weight over a set of monkey bars. So you see a lot of people like jumping and going to grab it and then just slipping straight off and into the water. You know,
That's gonna be me.
which is people are like, how can I do the monkey bars? Like, there's not really any easy way for me to break it to you, but you're probably just not going to have enough time because you need to. And I don't mean that to you guys, but to you two guys, you guys will probably be cool. But if somebody's like 30 kilos overweight, it's like, well, we need to start by losing those 30 kilos, and then we can focus on your grip training because your hands are going to have to carry your body weight over that. But yeah, just be careful for the electricity. That's what I would say.
They keep saying that.
Everyone keeps saying that, yeah.
Fucking horrendous, by the way. I wouldn't do Tough Mudder again just because of that electricity.
Really? Oh fuck!
Who signs up and, like,
to run into
who signs up and pays to be electrocuted?
Crazy.
some sadistic people out
Exactly.
Crazy.
That's you two. You're going to be doing that.
Yeah, I've always needed to go and stuff, but there's also a good few organisations that, you know, help others with goal setting, and I think my favourite one, just because I'm an Outlander fan, is the guy who plays Jamie, Sam Hewins. He's got something called My Peak Challenge, which is kind of like just a group of, like a global community of people setting goals. So I don't know, if you're an Outlander fan, check it out. It's quite cool. Finding that community to push you a little bit further, because the community helps.
Even within some of the Facebook groups we're in, there's some people who are taking sort of fitness on to lose weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, just speak to them, create your own community.
And I suppose if you fancy doing Tough Mudder, you know now that me, Greg, and Susie are going to be doing it. And Susie, funnily enough, said, "Oh, can I invite a couple of other people?" The couple of other people that they've invited are sports students. So that's bloody great, Susie. Thanks.
So the weakest link is definitely sitting here somewhere. I think it's here.
I think it's. You see, I think I'm not going to be able to run around very well. You're more run. I can maybe throw myself over things. I might. Yeah. Anyway, look at your face.
No, you have a good time. Like I'm just always of like, I don't want people's injuries on my conscience. And I also, like, I did Tough Mudder in Sydney, Australia, like, on the Central Coast. It was a 2-hour drive north of Sydney. It was 30 degrees. I was topless the whole time. It was glorious. Whenever you jumped into
Wait, the weather or just the fact that you were topless?
I'm trying to think of whether it was. Yeah, it was glorious back then. Not so much now, but back then, that was about maybe 4 years ago or 5 years ago. But 6 years ago. That's 3 times I've got that wrong in this podcast. But my point is, like, whenever we dived into like the plunge pools, which they call like enema baths or something like that.
Oh yeah, the Arctic plunge. I think it's now.
Is that what it's called? Maybe I'm thinking
so.
Maybe it's something else is called
The icy
enema.
things.
None of those sound tempting.
But when it's 30 degrees and you're sweating, it's standing at the start line, jumping into that is cool. See, when you're up north of Scotland and there's midges everywhere and it's like 4 degrees and raining, diving into a plunge pool full of ice is not a good tempted thing. So I did it. I had a positive experience doing it because I did it in Sydney and it was beautiful. Doing Total Warrior in Scotland was less glorious and it was half the distance of Tough Mudder. So it's good fun, but
yeah,
no, not for me.
Shit, I'm gonna have to have my training. You're gonna be seeing me every day now. well done.
We'll look after you. I'll get the coffee on.
Yes, that'd be good. So you've opened your new gym. Obviously, we actually have a wee giveaway. Are we calling it a giveaway?
Yeah.
So we've got a voucher for Improve Glasgow, which is obviously Ross's gym, my gym, and it's a gift voucher of £200. Actually, 199 to be specific. But I'll read you this voucher. This voucher entitles you to 1 month's training at Improve Gym, which includes an introductory session, up to 12 personal training sessions, unlimited access to our HIIT classes, 2 body composition scans, education, help and support with nutrition, and most importantly of all, results. I should also say that the community, you didn't talk too much about the community, but everyone in there is so supportive of each other. I think it's really great, and it helps me keep going. So that's cool. I like everyone in there.
We've got a strict no dickhead policy, and that's something from Legacy, the book I talked about earlier on from James Kerr about the All Blacks, and that's stolen from them. The All Blacks have got a no dickhead policy, and the book talks about the fact that there's been plenty of players, rugby players that have come out of New Zealand who have been very, very talented players and definitely good enough to play for the All Blacks, but they haven't been a good enough culture fit, and they thought they would upset the apple cart, so they've never received a game in the famous black jersey. And that's the way I try and look at our gym. I'm like, the only dick allowed in our gym is me. and I am the alpha male in the gym. But as much as, I joke about that, but we've just got a room full of such supportive and nice people, and that's the feedback that we get time and time again. It's like, man, the people in here are so lovely, from the staff to the members. There's just never really a point in time where there's certainly a point in time I would hope that people feel uncomfortable no matter what stage of their journey they're at, because everybody else appreciates how intimidating, how scared people are walking into a gym. So our guys, from the staff to the members, all make their priority to make people feel welcome and supported, and just try and put smiles on people's faces whilst they're training.
Yeah, I think you definitely succeed at that, to be honest. It's good fun. And how can our listeners out there, Greg, get hold of this tasty little £200 gift voucher for Improve Glasgow?
So if you've been inspired to take the first steps towards a bit more of an active lifestyle and try and help yourself stay fit and avoid injury during this wedding season, you can go to our Instagram on the day this podcast comes out, which is the 25th of March 2019. If you leave a comment with your goals for your fitness or exercise for the year ahead and tag a friend, then we'll randomly choose a winner, and there'll be instructions within the post to remind you of that.
Yep, absolutely. And now that you know that we are doing Tough Mudder, and if you want to join us, feel free to buy yourself a ticket. Let us know, and we'll add you into our team for going around Tough Mudder 2019, which is on the 15th of June, if you don't have a wedding, because it is a Saturday.
And tag one of your friends, then we'll choose a winner from that.
Yep, absolutely.
And we will look forward to having that person with us for a month.
Yeah,
it's a nice, generous offer from you, so thank you very much.
Yes, thank you indeed.
No problem at all.
I guess it's time for our review shout-out, isn't it, Greg?
It is, and I'm ready this time.
Yeah.
Don't need to get my phone out.
It's okay, I've been editing all the pauses. It's been fine. You've seemed seamless to everyone.
All right, okay. I Learned So Much by Ashley Baxter. So the review's from Ashley today.
But she sponsors the show, isn't that Shane? Greg's face.
Ashley says, love this podcast. I've left the wedding industry now, but I still love photography and hearing how others have created successful businesses in this space. Simon and Gregg always get good interviews out of guests, and every episode I've listened to has delivered value. Thank you very much for those kind words, Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you very much. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, hit that subscribe button so you know when the next episode goes online. Please leave a review, because we want to grow the podcast. Or, if you don't want to do that, absolutely cool, you can just tell a friend. However,
in the meantime,
enjoy your life.